Good afternoon, Tracy. How are you?
I'm doing so good, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really delightful to have you on today. And I know we have a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it. So, Tracy, first things first, love if you would introduce yourself to the audience quick, and we'll get to know you over the next hour to hour and 20 minutes or so, who you are, where you are in the world, and just a tiny bit about what you do.
Yeah. Hey, guys. It's so wonderful to be here. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I like to have a lot of
Yes.
fun. That's probably all you really need to know. I am living and working here in Dallas, Texas, but my business reaches all across the country and actually across the world. My practice is in career clarity, meaning we help people get hyper focused and clear on their ideal career so that they can discover their true value as a professional. They can define their genius zone out in the working world and then drive dream careers doing work they love where they can get paid what they're worth. So that is what we do. And it's a labor of love because my first job out of college was absolutely miserable. It was the
Yeah.
equivalent, as Einstein would say, of a fish trying to climb a tree and feeling stupid. And I realized that, very quickly, that was not a recipe for sustainable success.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to, help people do today. And I'm really proud to say that I've been in business for 6 years. I've got an amazing team of 6 people, and we are rocking and rolling. And especially with everything going on in the world right now, we're seeing a lot more people who are questioning and looking critically at what they do with their, 8, 10, 12, whatever hours a day and wondering, is this all there is? Is this really what I want to be doing? And
Hmm.
so, I'm super, nobody wants a global pandemic to make their business like jump off, but I'm really grateful that we've been able to serve clients really well through this time period. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, Tracy, there's so much gold that I want to ask you about now, but I'm going to save it because I think it's
Okay.
there's so much gold in there. Especially, I'm just genuinely curious what your first job was, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later in the episode.
We
I
got
have to
it.
say this is very timely. I just joined a mastermind, and one of the icebreakers we did is we had to
Hmm.
share the first job we ever had. Not even our college job, but the
Mm.
first job we ever had. And there's 13 of us in this mastermind, and I'll share this a little bit later in the show what it is. But I definitely won the award for the person who had the coolest job earliest in their life, because most people had it. So when we get into the job stuff a little bit more, we'll trade some stories about that.
Sounds perfect.
Awesome. So Tracy, let's get into it. What is something that you nerd out about?
Ooh. Okay, so the first thing that jumped into my mind was school supplies. That's not my actual answer, but I love freaking school supplies, like colored
Okay.
post-its and like things that match. And I mean, I would walk into Staples and just start drooling. Like that's kind of my big nerdy tendency.
Oh my
But
God. I need to know more. This is amazing.
it's pretty bad. Like I'm in a new office space right now, and like the part that's kind of the most fun is like, do I need to go to Costco and buy one of everything in bulk? Yes. But where is it all going to go? I don't know. So I love that kind of stuff. But my nerdy tendency, like my real thing that I like to out on as far as an intellectual pursuit is people, actually. I have a
Hmm.
degree in psychology from Yale, and that was really where I discovered that studying human beings, meaning understanding why we do what we do, our behaviors, our motivations, our personalities, our differences, our similarities, our hardwiring. Like I could go on for days about that stuff and just consume studies, ad infinitum. I knew I never wanted to be a researcher. That's why I'm not in
Hmm.
academia or anything like that. I love
Yeah.
the idea of taking what we know about how we function as humans and helping people optimize their behavior as opposed
Hmm.
to fix it or study it. So yeah, that's my big nerdy thing. And it's what's really fun is I was talking to one of our clients yesterday, and he and I have very similar personalities, and he was just saying, I need something that is dynamic enough that it changes frequently, but that I can still develop a depth of knowledge in, so that I'm not
Mm.
always chasing something, but that it's big enough that it's not boring. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
right. And so I was like, you know what? That's why I love being a clarity expert or working on people is because we're always learning new things about how the brain works, or, how our internal motivations and behaviors and needs and drives are really pushing our external behaviors. And it's constantly growing and evolving and changing as a field. So you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's always different, but it is something that's still narrow enough to be an area of expertise. So I really enjoy it. College was a very cool experience where I just got to study what I found fascinating, which was really lucky.
That's awesome. In the beautiful town of New Haven, Connecticut.
Pistol waving New Haven. That's what we used to call it.
Good pizza and a really good college. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Really good university.
Really good pizza. I miss
really
it,
good
dude.
Pizza.
Texas is fine. You get some like fun artsy pizzas here, but there's nothing like New Haven, modern Pepe's, Sally's. We could go to town on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna save some more of the career stuff for a bit later, because I know we'll talk about it. I'm so curious about this school supply thing. I will be sitting here like, all right, I'm gonna give you a few things.
Okay.
You tell me what your opinion, or tell me if this resonates.
Bring it on.
And I don't know how old you are. We're not going to talk about people's ages on a podcast, but trapper keepers. You know what a trapper keeper is?
Oh my God. Do you remember Lisa Frank?
Yeah.
I had a Lisa Frank trapper keeper. No joke.
Yep.
I
trapper
loved
keepers.
her stuff. Yes.
Tracy, we're probably kind of showing our age, because I don't
care.
I don't trapper keepers even a thing. I don't know. They were
people have iPads
thing.
now, friend.
Right,
There's
of course.
Yeah. I was in a Michael's, like a Hobby Lobby craft store called Michael's here in Dallas a couple days ago.
I know Michael's.
Because I developed a love of crocheting over the pandemic. Apparently that was my way of becoming just a really old spinster lady. And I don't mind sharing my age. I just turned 33 on October 30th. So
really old, Tracy, really old.
It was so ancient. And so I was in Michael's and I was walking around, and there's this whole clearance aisle. Half the clearance aisle was planners, like 2020 planners. And I was like, who has a physical planner anymore? And then I was watching 27 Dresses, and she has this file of facts. And I was like,
yep.
And then he gives her a BlackBerry, and I'm like, even BlackBerries are out now.
That's funny.
Things change so quickly. So yeah, it's a bit redundant to really love school supplies, because you're not supposed to use that much paper. But I'm looking to my right now, and I literally have every color of Sharpie, every color of pen, every color of like whiteboard marker. Like I don't know. I love color, and I love supplies. It's just fun.
This is fun. This is funny. We have a almost 5-year-old. So there are some school supplies, but the thing you said about technology, about iPads, she has a tablet that today she was doing some sort of coloring thing on the thing that's fun. Like, I'm opposite of you. I don't like paper. I have terrible handwriting, and I don't like paper. I like everything in technology. So meaning, like, if I can do a voice note, if I can do something on my phone, if I can do it over my computer, I really prefer to never touch paper. Like, I actually have a weird thing around paper. It's not weird. I just don't like it because I'm not organized with it. Because technology automatically provides organization. Paper by itself doesn't.
No, that's fair. But like, what I really want is one of those remarkable tablets that looks like and feels like you're writing on paper. And then you can sort and you can send it to yourself and all that kind of stuff, because that would alleviate a lot of what I usually end up doing, which is writing like my Monday, November 9th notes and scratching things off of a list and, stuff like that. But it's less about paper. It's more about like, what are the fun little trinkets that you have around the office that like make work more fun. They make it more colorful. They make like studying more fun. I was that kid that had like the tabs and the little note cards. Like, you remember, flashcards, like actual note cards, and coloring the edges. And I don't know. I think I've always loved color too. I was an artist when I was a little kid.
Oh, nice.
That went by the wayside for sports, of course. Texas, but yeah, I think color's always called to me. So that's really what the school supplies obsession probably is.
There it is. All right. That's cool. I have more questions, but I'm going to move on, because I've never had anybody tell me that they nerd out about school supplies anywhere in the real world or in my podcast. So there's always first on here. I love it. All right, Tracy, we're going to talk a little bit about your comfort zone. I call this a get to know you type question.
Okay.
So what's something that is inside of your comfort zone that might be outside of somebody else's? And I'm going to give you a caveat, because it's my show and I can do that. You can't say public speaking, because I know you do that. and that's just too easy.
Oh, okay. Can I say something that may sound like public speaking, but isn't?
Yeah.
The thing that is 100% in my comfort zone and wheelhouse that a lot of other people I've found have trouble with, I have two things that popped in my head. Number one
Yeah.
is extemporaneous speaking. So like talking off the top of my head. I prefer that actually over what you might call public speaking, like a prepared speech or a performance. Because I am so good in the moment. I show up hard. Being under pressure has always been, we in college, we used to say, if you wait till the last minute, it only takes a minute. But for some reason, I just show.
For all the procrastinators out there, close your ears for a minute.
I know, right? No, I
funny.
just show up when there's pressure. And when there's not pressure, I have a hard time getting myself motivated. So I find that actually being on panels, being interviewed on podcasts, a lot of my friends are like, I would need to know all the questions in advance. I would need to prepare. I would need to know exactly what I'm going to say. And I love going off the top of my head, like whatever comes to me right away, and being able to craft a really solid response and message around something that's just in the moment. I think that's really a huge thing that I do well. The other thing that I'm really good at that a lot of our clients have a huge hesitation around is networking. I don't know what it is, but people are so afraid to go to another person with a semi or half-baked idea of, in this case, what they want to do professionally and ask for feedback. They feel like they need to know every single detail, at which point asking for feedback is irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that's helped me in my career is that I am so good at painting a vivid picture for another person and then asking them critical questions. Like, what does that sound like to you? What are the pieces that are missing? Do you know what it's called? And that's something that one of my very first intern ever, when I was telling her that we needed to make networking a part of our proven program, she was like, yeah, but you need to teach people how to do it. And I was like, what do you mean? It's just talking to humans. And she's like, you do something that not a lot of people know how to do. And you need to break it down. Like everything that you say, you have a reason behind saying it, but it doesn't come naturally to other people. And so you need to explain the reason and explain what you're going to say and why you're going to say it and how to say it. And I was like, oh dear Lord, that's a lot. But then I realized that it's a huge value to other people because it's so fundamentally uncomfortable for a lot.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, those are my two answers.
I love that. Yeah. I didn't resonate with the school supplies. I completely resonate with what you just shared. So much so the idea of being an external processor. I'm a complete external processor as well, which is why I like improv. I like interviewing people. I don't like, I've got questions for my podcast, but it's not like, I would prefer to actually not just drill down through questions.
Sure.
And it's interesting you say that because some of my guests are like, what are the questions? Which is why I actually send them out ahead of time automatically. And some of my guests are like, yeah, I didn't really look at them. Just ask me whatever.
I skimmed.
Yeah, right. Skim. Because and this is, I was talking to my friend who's, her and I are similar in personality, except she's a real introvert and I'm a real extrovert. And we were talking about, and she does Myers-Briggs consulting. And we were talking about the differences between external processors and not external processing. And the idea like Tracy and Jason throughout this conversation, we're spitfiring and we are literally, as we are creating what we want to say in real time as it's coming out of our mouth. And for her, she's extremely thoughtful. She's extremely well spoken, but it takes her a while. And she's like, yeah, while you're improving, I'm like writing the script in my head and then I'm editing the script in my head and then I'm putting it out, which I wouldn't know how to do that if you paid me $1 million to do that. I wouldn't even know how to process that way.
What I always wonder is like, who's listening? Is anyone listening? Because when I think about that, then that, especially when you're in a conversation where you're trying to make a solid point, you're thinking ahead. You and I are thinking ahead about like, I want to make sure that I don't forget to plug this or that I talk about this client or whatever. And then, but it sounds like she's also going, okay, while this guy's talking, I'm going to come up with what I'm going to say. I'm going to rehearse it in my head. I'm going to edit it in my head. Like, is she listening? Like I always wonder. And that's one of the big things, because I used an assessment as a professional for a while. That was like my full-time job was human capital advisory. And I would go into companies and implement this assessment called the predictive index. And that was one of the huge things, was helping people understand that certain types of people come to meetings for a reason. And then the other half of the population comes for another reason. People like you and I come to share. People like her come to learn and listen and then go back and think about it. And that's a huge breakthrough for a lot of people. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, are you familiar with DISC?
Oh yeah.
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 So I do DISC work, and that's kind of like 101. That's like 101 when you take DISC is, oh, I'm a D and my manager is a C, and how do we actually interact with each other and speak each other's language as opposed to just showing up in the way that I want to show up, which
Mm-hmm.
actually creates disconnections. Yeah. And then the the second thing that you said about the external processing and then also networking. I also love networking. And I'm like a president of a networking chapter in the city. I love it too. And I think what I've realized, and I never really networked because I've been working for myself for a couple of years now. I didn't really do it when I worked in my corporate career. You don't really
Mm-hmm.
have to because you have a big
Mm-hmm.
marketing agency that does it for you. What I realized is networking gets a bad rap because people think it's a bunch of people standing around with cheap drinks, handing out business cards and pitching each other. The kind of
Yep.
networking that I think you do and that I do, and you're likely teaching people, it's just about the relationship. You're not making
Yeah.
ask. You're just getting to know each other. And then, oh, like, hey, I know Tracy. Her company does this amazing thing. Let me get you in touch with her. Versus like, there's no like the networking we do. Like, there's almost never any pitching, and if there is pitching, it doesn't land because almost
Mm-hmm.
anything you want to know about Tracy or Jason or anybody else is pretty much on the internet anyway. Just like just like almost every product on the planet now, it's almost all out there. So if I
Mm-hmm.
want to know what you do and read your book or buy your book or listen to your podcast or hire your company, I can find out most of that. And what's actually, to me, this is my opinion, what's most important is, do I trust you? And do I know that you to be like a good human being that I can send people to? And that only comes
Yeah.
from having the conversations, not from you pitching me what you do. Especially if you're at somebody pitch you at a networking event and they're pitching you on their product and they have no idea if you have any sort of problem that they could solve whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
I know it. I know. And you're exactly right. It's those like really just slimy events that people think equals networking. The thing that I find that most people forget is how important their pre-existing connections are. Like
Yeah.
your family, your friends, your coworkers, your previous colleagues, your people you know from college, your professors, your mentors. Like that is just ripe. That population is ripe for helping you through a career transition, a job transition, a business transition of any kind. And
Hmm.
we skip over them and think, oh no, they already know everything about me, or oh no, they already have me in a box or whatever. And I have to immediately start with people I don't know and have no connection to and don't even get a warm introduction to. And that's the problem. I'm like, no, why make it hard? Like talk to the person who's
Yeah.
sitting next to you and they probably know
Right.
someone they can introduce you to. And that's the big difference. Yeah.
Right. And that's also a hard lesson to learn when you realize you're like, oh wow, I've just spent a lot of money on a marketing strategy that doesn't really work because they don't know me, and it's like so hard to cut through the noise versus knowing something about somebody. It's just so much more a quicker path to the connection and potentially doing
Mm-hmm.
business or whatever it is you're looking for, partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like you see these people who's drop an exorbitant amount of money on marketing to reach all these external people
Yeah.
that are maybe in their niche, maybe they aren't, but then they've, like you said, they've got this group of like, I forget what the book is. You may remember it, but it's like your mind, is it 150 people that you can like have within your sphere, kind of your sphere of influence, and kind of in your tribe. You have your close people, then you have kind of like your second and third waves. But after about
Oh, sure.
150, I forget the name of the book is, but after about 150, you kind of lose the ability to stay connected with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I'm definitely ringing a bell there. I could not
Yeah.
put a finger on which one it is. I mean, I have like 7 books sitting next to my bed right now. So I'm that person. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm halfway through a novel, halfway through a biography, halfway through an audiobook, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. All right. So opposite of the first question,
Sure.
what's something that's outside your comfort zone that's going to be inside of somebody else's?
Oh man, this is a great question that I don't have an immediate answer to. What is
Uh,
something that is
I'm not
outside
going to
of
let you off the
my
hook that easy.
comfort zone? No. I want to answer it.
Yeah, I
I
know.
just wish I had a pithy, like, oh, Jason, it's this. I don't know. What is something outside my comfort zone that is probably within many others? Oh, you know what? You know what just came to mind? I as a business owner, right, I've had to interview people. I have to have performance meetings. Um, I have to discipline people. I have to
Hmm.
say no. I have to fire people. Like
Hmm.
I suck at being unemotional and unempathetic in those scenarios. Like if at all possible going forward, I would have other members of my team interview all of our new people first and give me their opinions first before I ever talk to them, because I immediately try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I very quickly am like making excuses for them. I'm very subjective when it comes to humans. And for instance, like one of my enrollment coaches, so we have clarity coaches who actually facilitate our programs. And then we have enrollment coaches who talk with all of our potential prospects.
Yep.
And we do these really great free 50-minute strategy calls where our potential clients get value no matter what, but they get to figure out if we're a good fit to work together. Right. So one of my enrollment coaches is so good at holding space in places where I would feel really uncomfortable, like silence. or making someone really sit with an uncomfortable emotion, like making them really look in the mirror and say, this is my life. This is what I've been doing. Do I want to continue this habit? And it is such a value for that person because there's no one else in their life doing that. It makes me so physically uncomfortable. Like there have been times where I've literally had to hit the mute button on my phone and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I hit, unmute and I'm like, like it's, I love that he can do it. And I love how professional some of my people show up.
Yeah.
Because there are times where I'm just like, yeah, I'll give you more money, or yeah, I'll do this, because I just want them to feel good. I want them to feel appreciated. And I hate making people feel bad. Mostly because in predictive index speak or in DISC speak, I'm a super high I or super high B. And so I don't want people to not like me. That's what it really comes down to.
I was just going to say, as a coach and somebody who knows DISC, I'm an all the way to the outside of the sphere ID as well.
Oh, geez.
And and so we're probably trying to impress each other the whole podcast, maybe subconsciously, but yeah, like I was going to say as a coach, I'm like, oh yeah, like the basic human need is you want to be liked.
Yep. Yeah. And for people who are really high in sociability and extroversion, what's really beneath that is the fear of not having anybody to engage with. Right.
Yes.
Like you preserve your ability to engage socially by creating positive relationships. And if you make somebody uncomfortable, you're threatening one of those relationships, which could fundamentally harm your ability to connect. Right. So it's all circular. And I know that about myself so much now because I've had to have enough uncomfortable conversations with people that I'm now putting barriers between me and those conversations with other people who are better at it.
That's smart as a business owner. That's smart to like get the people that are best at it, and you do your thing, they do their thing.
One of my mentors and business coaches told me, she's like, listen, they're the people that are going to have the most engagement and interaction with that person once you hire them. So it doesn't matter if you like them or you think they're going to be great at the job. If every one of the people on your pre-existing team who you've already invested in doesn't like them, then it's probably a non-starter. You could find a better person. So she actually doesn't do any of the hiring for her own business immediately anymore. She has everybody on the potential team interview that person first, and then they give her a recommendation before she even talks to somebody, which I was like, oh, hells to the yes. Like you get everybody to do the work for you, make the recommendation for you. They feel really empowered because you've given them responsibility, right?
Makes
and
sense.
autonomy and purpose and all those things are great, right? Daniel Pink drive. And then you get the benefit of, hey, I know if my people like this person, don't like this person, could see themselves working with them, think they're capable. And so you get to go into the interview, if you choose to have it, with even more information. This woman was genius. I was like, what? Yep, I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah. It also sounds like you're actually the you might be the easiest person in the interview. Like if they've gone through your team and they're like, 100%. Yes, this person's a heck yes. And we know that Tracy's going to be the easiest one, so we're going to save her for last. You're like, this is just a formality. My team likes you. Let's just talk numbers. Let's just get you on board. This sounds great.
This is so bad that this is going to go out, into the ether, and people are going to think like, I can just pull one over on Tracy. Like the fact is, every one of us has these tendencies. Maybe yours is like being overly formal or overly informal, or it's being too patient or too urgent or whatever. Mine just so happens to be, I know that people and connection is sort of my number one driver. And I like to do it quickly, and I like to do it intuitively and empathetically. And so if that's true, one of the things that I've really embraced is really important when you talk about career clarity or business clarity is know who you are and be the best version of yourself, and then put other people or things in place to complement you as opposed to trying to change who you are. Right?
Oh yeah.
So I do the best I can, but it's a learning experience every day.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's great. I had a feeling you'd come up with something profound, and that's awesome. So thank you, Tracy.
You got it, friend. You got it.
I just gotta let you just gotta let us external processors noodle on it for, just a little bit, and it'll come out, and then it'll be like 5 minutes of amazing stuff.
But first you're going to get a whole lot of verbal mulligans, and then you're going to get the gold. Yeah, I get it.
One of the things in the coach training program that I went through and now I'm a leader in, because I also have that same thing, and I've had to train this out of myself when I'm coaching specifically. Sounds like one of your enrollment coach has good training. We learned an acronym of WAIT. Why am I talking? And am I talking to impress? Am I talking to convince? Am I talking to listen to myself? Or am I talking to serve the client? And if it's one of the first three, if you need to use the mute button, that is a very fine way to do it from the technology if you can't control yourself. But hey, why am I actually talking right now? I don't know. Oh, I want the client to think I'm smart. Is that actually going to be helpful? I don't know. Yeah. But the thing about the mute button is funny. One of the leaders in our program, she was telling us when she first started her coach training, she had a problem stacking questions. I don't know if this is something that you struggle with, but
no, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
So she struggled with preamble and postamble. So in coaching, the best thing to do is ask the question and shut up. And so she would ask a powerful question and then give it a postamble. And she goes, yep. And I use the phone mute button and I unmute it and I would still keep going, but the client wouldn't know it. And she finally trained herself out of it, but she said it took her months of training that away because
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love that example.
Couple little tips. So let's move to speaking, to public speaking, which I know you do a lot of.
Sure.
But you probably do more than 5 minutes at a pop, I guess. Maybe you do some 5-minute stuff. But if I gave you 5 minutes, Tracy, and you could deliver a speech, and everybody in the planet would hear it. And yes, I had one guest who's like, well, would there be interpreters? And they want to know all the details. I'm like, let's just pretend. I was like, oh, come on. I was like, come on. Yeah, everybody in the world gets to hear what Tracy has to say for 5 minutes. What would you give your speech on and why?
Ooh. So my business exists because I believe that we're here for a purpose, and that purpose could be lived out in our careers if we want it to be. And so we exist to do two things: unleash potential and unlock purpose. And so, my 5-minute come to Jesus, think about your life, do things differently speech would 100% be centered around why that matters and why it's worth pursuing, and how I really believe that the world would be a better place and the ripple effects of our lives and our careers would be so much more powerful if all of us were living and working in our purpose every day, as opposed to trying to live with the promise of future success and whatever that might bring to you. I feel really, really purposeful and passionate about that. And we've just seen the power of clarity in someone's career and basing that career in that person's deep core values and their purpose-driven mission, whatever that happens to be. And again, it's not one singular thing. It's many things for most people, which is the hardest part for most people to get over. But it's a game changer. We change lives. Can I tell you a quick story, actually, which is amazing? So
no, you don't need to ask permission. Do it.
I'm doing it. So one of our clients that we worked with last year, and this is just one of those really cool stories you could never see coming. I was on her clarity call, that 50-minute strategy call that I talked about, and we were going real deep. I think we ended up going an hour and a half or something. And finally I got to listen, what's really at the root of this? Why can't this exist anymore? What's the real problem? And she was like, listen, I really think that me being so miserable at my career is why my husband and I can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, ooh, we hit it, and in that moment, the salesperson in me was going, we got a new client. And the human in me was going, wow, that's a real deep resounding reason to make a change in one's life, right? If you believe that something you're doing is immediately causing your inability to achieve your number one goal, which was building a family, that's worth changing, right? That's a compelling reason to move forward. So we worked with her, got her career clarity. She started a business. She literally wrote her testimonial says, "I never knew I could be this happy," like that kind of stuff,
That's
which
awesome,
is amazing,
Tracy.
right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
and
that's so
and
cool.
lo and behold, so what we do after our initial 30 days with our clients is we follow up with them 30 days, 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, and 1 year afterwards. So we had her 1 year call. This was just a few months ago over the summer. And she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Right?
I saw that one coming a mile away.
I know.
That's awesome.
And so my coach at the time and I were like, "Oh my God, did we just make life?" Like, and we kind of did, like we put that person on a different path, or at least we helped her find her own path. We didn't make her do it. We didn't force any realizations on her. We gave her the recipe for clarity and she decided to use it, and so now their whole family, there's a whole new human coming into the world because of this, which is just like, honestly, I tell that story and it still doesn't even fully, I don't think it's sunk in all the way. Because it's just so big and so crazy. But yeah, so to bring it all the way back to that probably took 5 minutes to describe, to bring it all the way back to your 5-minute speech question, I think it's really the power of purpose in your career. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I have, we're going to move to a brief commercial in a minute, but I actually have a question for you. And it just struck me. My style is I like to just wing it when something hits me intuitively. I'm curious if we have people listening today, and I'm sure you get this question a lot. So I actually have two questions, and I don't want to take a ton of time on this, but I'm very curious about it. So one, there are jobs in our economy that I think would be fair to say that it's not nobody's purpose to do those jobs, and they have to get done. I would say you might, and I actually want to get your input on this because you spend a lot more time in this field than I do.
Okay.
Two, and so I think the question is actually something around, do you believe that everybody who's going to work or everybody in life has a purpose? And and then the second part of the question is when people haven't found it, because there are a lot of people who haven't found their purpose when it comes to, I think life generally, but just work. What do you usually see as the block? What is it that has and I think what I'm kind of asking you is, what do you pick up in the clarity calls that has you be informed about how to best support these potential clients when and let's take a client who's like, I hate what I do. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who work in finance because I live in New York City.
Yeah.
None of my friends who work in finance like working in finance. They like the paycheck and that's all they like about it. But
really?
None of them is like,
okay.
When I say finance, I'm talking sometimes like back office operations in a bank or like even trading. Like they're like, hey, I've never heard any of my friends who work in banking say like, it's my life's purpose to go and like look at spreadsheets of names that are getting laid off next month. Like, no, I've never heard anybody say anything like that. So I've talked a lot and I've stacked a bunch of questions at you now.
I was going to say, no, I wasn't going to call you out on that. Anyway.
I'm calling myself out. I caught myself. Yeah. So I guess to boil it down to one question, what is the number one thing that blocks people from figuring out what their purpose is?
Okay. This is good. So first and foremost, everyone has purpose. Everyone has purpose, period. Like not a purpose, not 7 purposes, but everyone has purpose. We are here for a reason. I have to believe that. And I do believe that. And it's at the root of my business. It's at the root of my faith life. It's at the root of what I think when I wake up in the morning. Thank you for another day. What's my purpose today? The number one block that holds people back from pursuing any purpose, let alone their one resounding purpose, is the idea that you only have one resounding purpose. Like, let me give you a good example. So I remember this was like 3 years ago, I think, and I was seeing a counselor who I adore. And I was still trying to figure out like, what's the motto or what's the message? Like why does my business exist? What do we do for people? Because I still hadn't really nailed it. You know what I mean? Like that pithy, like go from stuck to unstoppable or discover, define, and drive or what, like I didn't have it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what to call myself, frankly. And I had a lot of sleepless nights for that. So one day I had this epiphany. It's do what you were created for. That's what we help people do. Do what you were created for. I loved this thing. So I'm like going to see my counselor, Diana. I'm like, she's going to love it. She's going to blow a big parade for me. It's going to be amazing. And I was like, Diana, I got it. And I told her this, it's do what you were created for. And she just looked at me. She's like, I don't like it. I was like, excuse me, this is magic. What are you talking about? She's like, I don't like it because it's not true. It's misleading. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, there's no one thing that each of us were created for. Like, to think that you are here for absolutely one purpose and that there's a chance that you miss it or don't figure it out. That's what scares people. Right. And she's like, listen, right now in my life, my daughter's about to get married. She's like, so I feel like my purpose right now is to be the best mother of the bride that I could possibly be. She's like, I'm not bringing on new clients. I'm not taking any speaking engagements. She's actually a sought after speaker. She's like, I'm not writing as much. I'm not spending as much time with my girlfriends. She's like, mother of the bride is my priority right now. It is my purpose right now. Then she's like, but guess what? She's going to get married. And then I'm not going to be the mother of the bride anymore. And she's like,
purpose gone.
If I thought that all I was created to be was the mother of the bride, like, and my purpose is over, like, what do I do then? And I was like, oh, like I can't tell you, Jason, the number of nights that I stayed awake going, what's my passion? What am I passionate about? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Like, what's the one thing? Let me be the first to tell you, if nobody else has told you this, you do not have one purpose or one passion or one intention. We have constantly evolving purpose and passion and intentions. And I really believe that one of the foundational things that holds people back from pursuing any purpose or any passion is thinking they have to choose one and they have to choose it right. Does that make sense?
Oh, Tracy, that makes perfect sense. Just to coach, like we look at the context that our clients are in. That's a either or context or a right wrong context. And I know it well because I used to live in that.
All or nothing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all or nothing. I either need to make this choice or make that choice. You hear this all the time with people that have jobs where they need the money, and then they're like, oh, but that means I can't go and start my own company. I'm like, but does it? There's a lot of people who start side hustles and then turn into full-time things. So either or context. It's one of the great, what I would say for most people, the either or context is one of the contexts that almost every human runs into.
Yeah.
It's a safety thing.
Yeah.
Too many choices is a bad thing. Yeah.
Well, for sure.
Can be. Yeah.
No, it absolutely is. But I think the other thing too, like this is the philosophical basis of what holds most people back. I think it's the big, dark, scary thing we're not willing to look at. The thing that I hear the most often is actually that people haven't given themselves permission in some sense to prioritize themselves, to put themselves first, to make any sort of change in their lives. And without internal permission, I think most of us are expecting external permission, like someone to come around and be like, hey, guess what? Now's your turn. Like you can go now. And the thing that I've realized was like that it's not coming, unless you're at the end of the day, like we are all the owners and responsibility holders for our own experience in life. Do we control anything? No. We maybe get to control our actions. And even then, a lot of that's like hardwired in your brain and facilitated by where you are and all that other stuff. We can go there. Oh my gosh. This reminds me of in college, there was a professor who was trying to argue that nobody can ever sit on the stand in a trial because actually everything you think and believe has been hardwired in your brain by all the influences in your life up to then. That like nobody has individual conscious thought. And I was like, that'll keep you up at night.
That's frightening. It's a Black Mirror stuff.
It's super Black Mirror, but it's when you think about it, we are pretty manipulated from birth. But anyway, the whole idea that truly though, if you don't give yourself permission, if you don't prioritize yourself, if you don't seek happiness, like it's not just going to be given to you. It's not going to fall out of the sky. Your dream job is not going to pop out of a computer screen because you've scrolled enough times on a job board. It's going to come via your decision and hard work and an intentional, purposeful action to move that needle forward. And it's the permission piece that I see holds a lot of people back from feeling like they're worthy of making that investment in themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're the last people to spend on ourselves, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh God. I was just going to mention as we go to the break, I'm sure that you run into this in your company. I run into this with people like, hey, do you want to work together? I do. I see so much possibility. Here's what it's going to cost. Well, and then like, I'm sure you do this all the time, but you just told me that you think that we can actually help you build your dream career. And what is that worth to you and your happiness and your family? Yes, but, and it's like the
my favorite
possibility
is
dies.
oh, yes, but I need to buy X, Y, and Z. Or yes, but we have like insert random thing coming up that's going to cost a little bit of money that's not going to last
Right.
very long, like a party
Right.
or a trip or a whatever,
Yeah.
which is probably just a thing to numb the fact that you're not happy, but it only lasts. So we're just horrible. One of my favorite people in the world is Sean Acor. He wrote The Happiness Advantage. He's got one of the top 10 TED Talks of all time. I actually got to work with him in college, which was really cool.
Oh, nice. That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing. And he's a good guy. He's from Waco. He's a Texan. He's totally down to earth. And he talks about happiness and sort of the psychology of happiness. And he studies it full time and speaks around the world. He's been on Oprah. He's incredible. Yeah. I got him to write a blurb for my book, and I was like, put his name bigger than mine on the front. Like nobody needs to see my name. They just need to see his name. Which my publisher was like, no. But anyway, he in his research, it's very clear that we as human beings are just horrible at predicting our own happiness levels and the depth and breadth of our happiness, meaning how long am I going to feel happy and how deeply happy am I going to feel based on any given outcome. And investing a couple $1,000s in a career clarity program that's going to set you up for a lifetime of career happiness. People look at it and they're like, oh, I was going to buy a fridge. And you're like, can I, what? That doesn't make any sense, but it's all social norms, right? Like we're used to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on school, but we're not used to spending $3,000 or $4,000 on our own professional development.
Yeah.
But that we could, I could get on a soapbox big time about that. But anyway, neither here nor there.
I could too. I was just going to mention this. So this is where your ideal clients, you really want somebody who's like at a disc on like the high D or the high I that are like, I'm so inspired by the message, I'm just ready to commit, versus like more of the C style is like, so Tracy, I hear what you're saying and this all sounds good. Do you have any like actual graphs or like data that tells me exactly what my happiness is going to be worth at the end of this? Like, what is the actual output going to be of this program you're going to take me through? And you're like, I can't tell you that exactly because I can tell you what results we've gained for other clients, but I can't tell you like without the data. But that's just, you need all types, because those types of people are amazing for all sorts of things too. So
that's so funny,
man. I feel like we could spend the next 30 minutes on this because we're both obviously super passionate about this topic. But I do want to just give us a brief commercial break because I want to come back and hear a lot more about you. And if you're like most people I know, you probably like to talk about yourself a little bit, and you're going to get the chance to do that even more in a minute. So we'll be right back.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
All right, Tracy, we are back. So let's see what we know about you so far. You are from Texas. You
sum me up, Jason.
Let's see if my active listening skills were good today. You're from Texas. You love school supplies. Definitely not going to forget that one. You went to Yale. You studied psychology. You didn't get into what your job was that you hated. But you now own a company, you have staff, and what you do, if I could summarize your company, is yes, you help people with clarity, but the problem you actually solve is you create happiness in people's work lives. Have them have more fulfillment.
I love that. Yeah.
There's the marketer in me coming out.
Hopefully with more fulfillment, well, ideally with more fulfillment comes more finances, right? Because if we're giving more value actively, I really think it's just a big value exchange at the end of the day. The more value you add, then the more value you should get back from what you do. Absolutely. And value comes in, we like to say in many F's. It comes in freedom, it comes in finances, it comes in fulfillment. And all those things are really valuable. And we just forget a couple of them on behalf of one of them, which is usually finance. So,
Yes.
so yeah, thank you for that. That was sweet. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, I'd just love to hear a little bit of like what, I've had some guests share, like, I was born on this day, and we don't necessarily need that unless you really want to share that with us. But yeah, I'm just curious. I'm always curious with amazing guests like yourself, like, what is it that got you to today? Like, if you had a moment of clarity in your career.
It did.
What I'm also interested in is, going to Yale, getting a psychology degree. I am curious what that first job is, and like, what was it that clicked for you that has us talking today, has you writing a book, has you doing your own thing?
Right. Yeah.
It's like the Guy Raz part of the show, the How I Built This.
You got it. So it's a story. I love that. Oh my gosh, my ultimate goal, right? I want to be on Super Soul Sunday, and I want to be on How I Built This.
There you go.
So yeah, there you go. Absolutely. So, okay. It's all a story, right? Everything's a story and a narrative. So my story started out obviously in Texas. I'm an only child. Two amazing parents who I adore. We're like the Three Musketeers. And I grew up as that quintessential, like, elder millennial, overly scheduled perfectionist kid, right? Like, I was in every class that could be advanced or AP or pre-AP or LEAP or whatever. And then I was playing a bunch of sports. I played an instrument. I did art classes. I mean, I was busy. And I was a performer. Like, from the day I can remember, the first day I can remember, it was all about, what do people expect of me? And did I do it perfectly? Right. So like, if I'm supposed to do well in school, I have to get 99s and 100s. If I'm supposed to play an instrument, then what? This is horrible. This just sounds
no, it's not horrible. It just sounds, like an exhausting existence at some point, because that's just not sustainable, no matter who you are.
It is exhausting. Yeah. So anyway, I was just this overscheduled and then very much a performer. And that works really well when your bar for success is very linear, right? So if success is being first chair in the band and you get first chair, great, you won. If success is being a varsity athlete and you get varsity freshman year, great, you won. If success is getting A's and being top of your class, well, I graduated fourth in my class, so I won, right? Like, I was doing well with the bars that I was given. And so that actually works really well for the system, right? So that's why I got to go to Yale. It's because I played a sport really well and I got really great grades. There's no magic there.
What did you play? What kind of athlete were you?
I played softball. Yeah, I was a softball player. I got recruited at a couple different schools and ended up going to Yale just because I fell in love with it. And it's really hard to say no to Yale because it looks good.
Yes.
But it was totally out of my comfort zone, right? I grew up in Flower Mound, Texas. Like, I had never, Yale's a quarter Jewish, a quarter gay, a quarter international. And I felt totally out of place, had no idea what I was doing, but I learned a ton. And that's where I discovered psychology, which, again, I've always been a big nerd. Like, I can study and I'm smart. But I never really loved anything that I was studying, right? I would just memorize and remember things and I could test well. But then when I started taking philosophy and sociology and psychology classes, I was like, oh, this is actually interesting to learn about. Like, this book is interesting to read. You know what I mean? As opposed to just, I can memorize this. So coming up on graduation, though, I ran out of linear yardsticks of achievement, right? So the next linear yardstick is going to grad school. And I was like, I'm so burned out from school. Or it was doing sort of more senior athletics, right? Like maybe Olympics or professional athletics. And that was not in the cards for me because I was super burned out from softball. So, I had no idea what I wanted to do because I had run out of my, how you want me to jump how high kind of questions. And so September of senior year at Yale is when everybody is like gunning for every single job that's out there. And if you don't have a job by October, like, forget it. You're like persona non grata and you have a miserable senior year and all is lost for you at 22. Right. Oh. So I knew I'm always good at figuring out what I don't like. Like, and my mom is coincidentally in the office with me today, and she's sitting behind me and probably laughing because I've always known what I don't
Hi,
like.
Mom.
That's a very, hi, Mom. I've always known what I don't like. And that meant that I knew that I didn't want to be a researcher. I knew I didn't want to be in academia. I knew very clearly that I didn't want to be a counselor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist, meaning I didn't want to counsel, right?
Yeah.
It just was at 22. I was like, I've got my own problems. I'm not ready for that. And so, I saw these linear paths through psychology, but I knew that I didn't want any of them. So at the absence of a plan, I just started to look around and see what other people were doing. So I literally, the way I got my first job was I went to a career fair. I was on campus in the gym and I was wandering up and down the aisles, handing out haphazard resumes to like Abercrombie and Fitch and like Duke University's MBA program or whatever. And
I like those are the two choices.
I'm telling you, it was the weirdest.
That's amazing.
I will never forget that Abercrombie and Fitch, recruited on campus at Yale. One of my friends did an internship with them. It was pretty funny. He got to make his own product line that summer.
That's cool.
Anyway, I know, isn't that funny? So all the vestiges of, Lisa Frank, Trapper Keeper, and Abercrombie and Fitch. So we're just throwing back. It's a good time. So
I love it.
I'm like at my wit's end. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my friend Holly comes running over and she's like, oh my God, there's this company from Scotland and they're hiring salespeople. And she had just studied abroad in Scotland and I had sold Cutco knives every summer when I was in college.
Yeah.
So I could sell and I love to travel. And she was like, they look like fun. You should go talk to them. My very first job out of college was working for the Royal Bank of Scotland on the sales and trading floor in Stamford, Connecticut. And that's how
I know that well. I've been there.
That is no joke, no extra details, exactly how I found out about that job and exactly how I applied for that job. And I'm embarrassed to this day to say that I had no earthly idea what I was getting myself into. Zero.
Yeah. I've been on that floor. It's crazy.
I'd never even been on a trading floor before. I went there on my super day for the first time and was like, whoa, like that's a lot of computer screens, that's a lot of yelling, like whatever, which I'm an athlete. Like I like a lot of hype. I like a lot of adrenaline. I like action and activity and I didn't want to be bored. I'm a good salesperson and I can understand people. So the psychological aspect I thought was interesting, but frankly, I just crossed my fingers and was like, you're going to pay me what? Okay.
Right.
The signing bonus alone, I was like, that's what I made all summer selling Cutco knives. And you're just going to give it to me for saying yes, like done. So I was really motivated by what I think a lot of kids are graduating, which was I really felt like I had a responsibility to my family to get a paying job. Like my parents had sacrificed a lot for me to go to school where I did. We got a good amount of financial aid, but still, it was hard on all of us. I had 3 jobs during college. So I needed a job. It needed to be well paying. I wanted to move away. I really didn't want to move right back to Texas right away. That's like what all my high school friends were doing. And it didn't feel right for me. So it was the first job that I got offered and I said yes. And that is the genesis of everything that I do to this day, because 2.5 years on Wall Street, again, was the mental equivalent. Like Einstein has this great quote, everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. And here was Tracy, who had spent her whole life up to that point, achieving at a really high level, holding herself to a really high standard, being more of a perfectionist than a trier, being a starter and not a finisher. And right. And not super coachable and just plowing ahead with knowing that I was smart and I could do things. And I generally just continued to do what I was already good at. Right. I was a fish and Wall Street was a tree. And I just thought, well, if I work harder or if I show up in a different way, or if I just make people like me or whatever, right? Like things will change, and they didn't change. And it was just the wrong environment for me. It was just the wrong environment for me. It's a pretty rough environment for anybody, but I would say if I had actually cared about financial markets, if I had found an interest in the math, if I wanted to get better, if I knew maybe what I was getting into more of before I got there, it would have gone differently, but that environment would never be conducive to my highest level of potential success. And that took 2.5 years to come to grips with.
It's not bad, actually.
No, in the grand scheme of things.
That's great compared to what a lot of people deal with.
except that I was like basically addicted to NyQuil, was drinking way too much red wine, had developed hypothyroidism, which is fun fact that comes from stress. I mean, I was like a shell of myself when I left. And I know people are like, oh my God, come on. You know, I lasted 5 years or 10 years, or good for you. You get a medal. You were able to be miserable longer than me. I don't have a really high tolerance level for being places that I don't want to be. And so 2.5 years was quite, and my mom's laughing again. 2.5 years was about all I could handle before I was really losing my sort of grip on my own mental health and wellness. So truly to this day, the reason that I do what I do now is that experience of seeing myself and other people who I knew had so much value to give to the world, so much potential, so much intelligence, so much heart, so much empathy, so much purpose to give to the world, presumably, but it was being hidden in a place where they couldn't access it actively. Right. And it broke my heart. And the only thing keeping me there was not knowing what that thing was. And the fear that I'd never find it, or that, you know, I'd be trading the frying pan for the fire if I left. Or, you know what I mean? So that was my first. It's funny that you brought up all your friends in banking, because I was like, preach, brother. Like, I totally get it. But I did it. Yeah. And I ended up quitting that job. Thankfully. I literally had a friend that I texted that day, and she's like, thank God your beautiful heart is no longer hidden in that bank. Like, you can go out and be yourself now. And I was like, you know what? That's the right attitude. Like, I was terrified, had no idea what I was going to do, but I wasn't hiding anymore.
Yeah. That's awesome, Tracy. Yeah. I call that the high achiever's cautionary tale. That's very for some people, that's what they do, and that's fine. And like, when I say the thing about banking, I'm sure there's people that like what they do in banking.
There were so many people I worked with who were like, the financial markets are fascinating. One of my best guy friends to this day is working at a huge private equity firm in San Francisco, and he loves business. He loves like the numbers and the math and the profitability and he loves it. And good for him, because he's going to go on and make buku bucks doing that. Right. But I couldn't, I talked to my mom about it one day, and I was like, I don't know how to get myself motivated. And she's like, the money's not enough. Like, could you at least motivate yourself for the money that you're making? Like lie to yourself every day. Like, I'm here so I can buy this, or I'm here so I can build wealth, or I'm here so I can move, or I'm here so I can go to Nobu or whatever. I'm like, no, it was never enough. And the scary thing is, people are always like, money's not enough. Money will not make you happy. That's because you had money. And so what privilege and yada, yada. Right. The sad part is, it's not until you have the money and it's not enough that you will know the truth of the fact that money will not be a big enough motivator for most people to stay where they are. It is for some. It totally is for some. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
That's fine. That's not a bad thing. But for those of us who it's not going to work for, it's a lie. And it keeps people, again, it keeps good people in bad jobs all the time.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Yeah.
Oh, like we got to it. We got to the story.
Open book.
Open book. There you are. All right. I'm going to move to the next question. And I want you to hold me accountable to something. Mm-hmm. I want you to hold me accountable to 3 minutes on the clock, because
I'll put it on.
Yeah, because I am predictable to go over that unless I'm not good at holding myself accountable, at least on my own show.
You tell me when.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for from you is, I want you to ask me something. You can ask me anything. Okay. I'm pretty much an open book too, and I will answer it. And I'm going to keep it to 3 minutes, which will probably be a record on the show. And I'm going to watch the clock, but you call me out. It's like Toastmasters. Have you ever done Toastmasters? You give me the green, the yellow, and the red.
Oh, totally. Yep. Done it. Been there.
Right, I'm ready.
That's where I learned the word extemporaneous, by the way.
Extemporaneous. Word of the day story. Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay,
Nice.
Jason.
What you got for me, Tracy?
Frizzell, what is the biggest mistake you've ever made? Go.
The biggest mistake I've ever made. The biggest mistake I ever made was operating on automatic in my career for a long time. Meaning, I am not an academic. I did okay in school, but I'm a people person. So I always thrived by using my personality, not always for good, as a fellow salesperson, but like likability and stuff like that. I'm not saying the most likable person, but like I'm a people person, right? So I can talk to anybody, I can do networking. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really until a few years ago when I actually hired a coach. And I've shared this on the podcast before. We won't get into it today. That I realized I was on automatic almost all the time in my career. And what I mean by that is, excuse me, I'm good at doing this stuff and getting a lot of stuff done, but there was no joy in it. So back to what you said earlier about the passion part of it. I never really cared about what I did other than I liked the paycheck and I liked the people, which I think resulted in me trying too hard to be liked, striving for a certain amount of success. And obviously in sales, that success comes from achieving and overachieving your quotas and blah, 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 blah. And never taking the time to take a step back and like ask myself, is this actually your best self? So I'm going to change my answer a little bit from the beginning. I never was aware, and partially this is part of just being a human being and like learning about yourself, which it took me having somebody else to help me learn about this part myself, is like never actually looking in the mirror and saying like, are you really showing up as your best self? Is this actually you? I felt like an actor for a large portion of my career. And it's nothing to do with the companies I worked for, the people I worked for. I actually liked my career, but it was never authentic to me. So the biggest mistake I ever made was spending that time. And the result is that I no longer do it, which may or may not be the right choice, but it also resulted in, I think I would have gotten a lot further in my career if I would have actually been myself.
Mm-hmm. That's so multifaceted. You hit 2 minutes and 8 seconds if you're done.
Oh, I haven't heard the bell yet. Yeah, no. I think that I'm going to use every second you're going to give me.
Yellow card. Yes.
Yellow card. Yes. I think like, for people listening, the question I would have you ask yourself if this resonates, and by the way, if anything Tracy says resonates, like just ask yourself, are you feeling authentic in your job? Are you bringing your best self? Because like to what you said earlier, that is how you're going to do your best work. It just is. And you're going to get paid more. You're going to get that promotion. You're likely going to land the career that you want from that. So, at the end of the day, what I'm committed to here on the show is having people who listen, like get something out of it. And that's what I want you to get out of this episode. Is ask yourself that. And hopefully between my friend Tracy and I, we've given you some things to think about.
There you go. Right on the money.
Whew.
Well done.
3 minutes. All right. You're back in the hot seat, Tracy. We have a few more minutes.
All right.
And I want to ask you, what's the thing that you're most proud of?
Wow. Okay. So you totally played into my hand, Jason.
Oh boy.
No, I think right now the thing that I'm most proud of is my book. I've been talking about writing a book for off and on for about 10 years. And at first it was going to be like a tell-all of my experience after college. And then it was just going to be like these are the people that got me through. And then it was going to be here's how to build a business sort of saga thing. And what it ended up being, the book is called Unstoppable. It was officially launched September 29th of this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And what it ended up becoming was a recipe book for career clarity. It is literally the step-by-step process that one can follow to feel and be unstoppable as a professional. To the subtitle is everything. It's how to discover your true value. That's your value add as a human worker, right? Mm-hmm. Then how to use that value to define your unique zone of genius out in the working world. Because again, remember, Jason and I are sort of, I think, living proof that you can only succeed at your highest possible level when you're working within an environment that's conducive to the way you add value. Right. That's just it, right? So anything else is sort of banging your head against a wall and hoping that produces results.
Good luck.
Right. In order to then finally, the last part of the subtitle is drive your career, drive your dream career like a pro. And I'm fully of the belief that we can find work we love that pays what we're worth, and that's the magical sort of recipe to do so. So yeah, that's what I would say that's right now, I think, is my most proud accomplishment.
Yeah.
I have so many more that are like, frankly, way more meaningful to me personally that are probably not the right answers for a podcast like this that's supposed to be semi-promotional. But it took so long and so much work and so much focus. And it took me 3 years just to build the methodology that we teach, let alone like 18 months to write a book and like 6 months to build a program and, 3 years to build a team and, all that stuff, right? It all takes, nobody tells you this. Everything takes way longer than you think
my
it will.
God. Oh my God. Yeah. No, totally. So first of all, congratulations. I talked to quite a few authors, and writing a book is like my 7th level of hell. I don't like writing,
I know.
which also goes back to, if you want to actually put me in a torture chamber, make me write a book on a piece of paper, like actually write it with a pen or a pencil. I would literally go crazy. So congratulations on writing the book. I think it's phenomenal. Like, I don't mind writing short form, but I'm just not a writer. It's just, it's kind of back to the things you don't enjoy doing. I just don't enjoy writing. It's just that simple. It's not something that fills me up, or I like to record podcasts and do videos and all those things. So congratulations on the book. And I was going to ask so what I hear, the thing that you're most proud of is like the synthesis of, and this is the thing that I've really come to understand for myself, but so much like speakers and authors, like all y'all listening to this, and I'm going to play in the Texas for a minute, all y'all, because that is not how I speak. I'm from Minnesota originally. We don't talk like that there.
No, I
get
it.
The amount of work that goes into the things that get created, like Tracy's programs and these books, it's hundreds, if not thousands of hours. You see these speeches, these TED Talks, these things are hundreds and thousands of hours. And what I hear that you're most proud of, or the way it landed for me, was that you have like this thing on Amazon and at the bookstore that's like a synthesis of all this, that is like blood, sweat, tears. I'm sure there was likely, maybe confrontational discussions with your editor, or I don't know, as a writer, most writers I know, they like hate half they write and they edit it out, they go back and forth, like just all those things. So seriously, congratulations. When I hear people writing things, I'm always just such an awe, because it is so far.
Wow.
That is a thing that'd be so far out of my comfort zone, is writing a book.
Wow. Thank you. No, I mean, thank you. Seriously. Cause you did finally give it justice, which is the fact that from concept to physical thing I was holding, you could say it took 18 months, but it's taken 10 years. And that's the honest truth.
Yeah.
And so I am proud of it, because you're right. It is the culmination of all that work in its most sort of accessible, physical, efficient form.
Yeah.
And it's a game changer. It's very, very cool to just hold it and look at it and just be like, oh my God, I wrote that. Like, what?
It's like the artist. It's like an artist thing. You've birthed something into the world. And when people can't interact with you or your team, or they're not even in the program, they can always go to their bookshelf or go to their Kindle and pick up your book.
Yeah,
It's there
I
anytime you want it.
I do. And what's fun is we're starting to get emails from readers who are like, oh, I'm on chapter 13. And so I'm figuring out my niche, and I'd really love your help. And whatever, they're in it, they're reading it. Like, people are using it, which is I'll tell you that the day that the business changed for me was the first time that I was working with somebody I didn't know personally, or who wasn't referred to me personally. Like, they found me through the ether, and they were like, I read your stuff and I love what you do, and your voice is so great. And I'm like, they know who I am, like it's working. Like, and any speaker, author, whatever, who doesn't say that to you is lying. It's a cool day when you're like, oh my God, people I don't know.
This is where I think it was President Obama, but it's like the thing is like, act as if you're like, yes, we get plenty of inbound leads from our website. It's hundreds a day. Like, you're one of the 100 people I've talked to today. You're like, inside, you're like, oh my God, our marketing actually worked.
Yeah.
Google search is working. Totally. Yeah. That is an awesome. I've had that happen too, where people are like, I'm like, how did you find me? They're like, oh, I just Googled and like, I liked your website. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's not how anybody starts out.
No,
that's
totally.
Awesome. All right, Tracy, I've been waiting to ask you this question, because I think there's going to be a good answer here.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
All right, what?
What's the thing that you're afraid might actually be true about you?
Oh, dear. What is the thing that I'm afraid might actually be true about me? Oh, man. You know what? It's funny that you phrase it that way, because I feel like I've slayed a lot of those demons over time. Meaning, I think I was afraid of a lot of things that fundamentally are true about like my personality or my I don't know, just drive in general to do certain things. Like I constantly am like, am I really that hard of a worker? Like, I think I kind of set myself up to work really, really hard for a short period of time and then like not have to work so hard, you know?
Yeah.
So there's little things that I think I've always worried maybe didn't make a successful person that were true about me, that frankly are true about me, but doesn't have anything to do with your level of success. That just takes time to learn. If any of you out there listening, what I'm doing right now is stalling. So
I sense that, but that's okay. I'm letting you stall a little bit.
What am I afraid? Say it one more time, the way you
Yeah.
said
So,
it.
and I'm going to give you a fair warning here. I'm not going to let you off the hook. I want to hear something that you're afraid might actually be true about you today, November 11th, 2020. Not something that you've slayed or that you used to believe, but something that everybody's got something. Everybody's got multiple things. You're a psychology person. Okay. You know that.
Something that I'm afraid might actually be true about me. I don't know if I've fully slayed this demon quite yet, but I've said this multiple times to many people in my most vulnerable moments. I am afraid that I might not be the best steward for what I want to change about the world. Like that I won't see it come to fruition, or that I'm not fully capable of getting it where I want it to be. Does that make sense? So like
That does. That's powerful.
Like I've told people how important this is, and that I just want it. I'm like, so many times I'm like this, and we help people and it works and it works and it works. But like, where are they? You know, like, why aren't people just knocking down our door going, I heard this works? You know, why aren't our happy clients telling more people? Why aren't people shouting this from the rooftops? And like, Is it me? You know, is it because I don't know what I'm doing? Because I'm really good at what we do. I'm really good at talking about what we do, but I'm not the best business person in the world. I'm not trained in that area. I don't know enough about debt and financing and partnerships and, you know, digital marketing and all that other stuff. So I think like deep down, probably the fear, most of my fears are about what might happen and less about who I might be. But I think if you put those two together, it's that I'm not good enough to get this where I think it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll spend the next podcast episode on that. That's a whole different...
Oh, good. Well, hopefully not the whole time.
All right. Well, just like 50 of the 60 minutes. It's fine. We won't go to like deep coaching on it. But
but you know what? If you gave me more time and I had thought about that question in advance, which I didn't, I might have a different answer for you, because I'm sure there's something that I'm like way holding back. But what am I? I think that's probably a good answer for now.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good answer, and it's powerful. Like what I heard in that is afraid that you won't make the impact that you know you're capable of, and due to external. And I think this is actually a human condition for people that want to make a difference. You go out and you do, like, you know, like your company's amazing, your book's amazing, you're making a difference in people's lives. And this is, I'm speaking from my experience too. You make such a difference in people's lives. And then those people go out and they run into the world. And I forget how many advertisements you see a day, and sick kids and pandemics and election cycles and all these things where no matter what the impact you make is, it's just part of, like, not necessarily even a small part. It's just not top of mind for people all the time, no matter what, because the world is so, being an American is so distracting. I mean,
Amen.
There's just, oh my God, social media, like news cycles, all that. So that's what I heard for you.
Cool.
All right. So where can the audience find you? And yes, of course, I'm going to put all the goodies in the show notes too. So I'll put a link to your book, website. Cool. But yeah, just real quick, where can the audience connect with you and find you?
Yeah. So if you actually want to connect with me as quickly as possible, I hang out on LinkedIn almost exclusively. That's my platform of choice. I'm almost never on Instagram or Facebook. I am literally never on Twitter. I don't even think I have a profile. But I hang out a lot on LinkedIn. And then my name is just Tracy, Tracy, last name Timm, Timm, both as in Mary. So if you want to connect with me there, please do it. I would love to learn your story and learn more about your journey and, you know, get on your train with you and see if we can help, or if not, just know more. And then, so the website's tracytimm.com. Our program's website is the name of our program, which is Nth Degree.tracytimm.com. And that's a really great place to go for resources. In fact, it's there that you can book a free 50-minute strategy call with us. It's there that you can actually download a couple of cool freebies, you know, how-to guides, things like how to find your clarity. And then we have a really cool 4-part video series that's called Jumpstart Your Career Journey. And it's really like the 4 first things that a person would need to do if they're thinking about making a career transition or trying to pursue their dream job or trying to even just figure out what their dream job is. But honestly, if you're looking for a best place to start, I'd go with the book. It's $15.95, which is nothing, by the way. I should have pushed my publisher a little more on that maybe, but it costs nothing. And it's a really great place to start to just get your brain in this area, thinking proactively about the things you can do right now that are actually going to move the needle beyond updating your resume and looking at yet another job board and trying to find a recruiter and like crossing your fingers and hoping your dream job's going to jump out of the screen at you, right?
That's not how it works? Oh, okay.
It's unfortunately not how it works. There's no magic wand. There's no perfect formula, but there are things that work and there are things that don't work.
Yeah.
And this book works. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to wish you like a congratulations on everything you're up to, Tracy. It was so fun getting to know you today. And I have a tradition.
You.
Yeah, so good to talk to you. I have a tradition on the show, and I love when the guests leave us with words of wisdom. And the words of wisdom should be short. So you're talking about Instagram. Think of like the art part of an Instagram post. What are some words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with today?
You totally picked a platform I'm like super unfamiliar with. The art part is like the image, right? Like what could fit on an image?
Yeah, the image part. Or hey, let me speak it in more in your language. A Post-it note.
There we go. Oh, yay. Okay, but are we talking like the big size Post-it? No,
I knew you were going to ask that.
I'm totally
the small
kidding.
Side, yeah.
All right. So one person tried to get me to do this in 1 sentence or 2 sentences the other day, and I was like, damn you. I'm telling you this, my biggest piece of advice to people, like if I had you by the shoulders with both of my hands and I was staring you in the face, would be that you will regret not trying to find purpose or passion in your life if you don't try. You will regret it more than trying and failing. You will regret it more than trying and it not working out quite the way you expected. You will regret it more than the assumption that you're not worthy or not valuable. If I know one thing about our psychology and about regrets, it's that we will infinitely regret more the things that we don't do and we're too afraid to try than the things that we do and don't work out the way that we had hoped. So my resounding Post-it advice is do and try and don't live a life of regrets.
Love it, Tracy. Thank you so much for being on today.
Yeah,
and I wish you the very best in everything you're up to. Thank you so much.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for the platform and the time. You're fantastic. What you're doing for people is awesome. And I hope to do this again. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you on again. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and give us a shout out or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.